we're going to be a disciplined football team, and we had two varsity players that broke team rules, and as a result, they had a one-game suspension, and that's the way it is. We have to be a much more disciplined football team, whether it's on the field or off the field, and that'll make a difference in us being champions in 2012. So I don't have any buyer's remorse in the decision, and I think Caleb would concur with my decision as well. We'll look and see how Robert played, and we'll look and see how they practice throughout the course of the week. We're not going to make a decision today. We're not taking votes or anything right now. We'll take a look at it and make an assessment as a coaching staff, what's best for our football team. But obviously all three of those quarterbacks are so important to us. And, thank goodness we have invested some time in the number 2 quarterback and the number 3 quarterback, because there's going to come some other times this season where we're going to lose the number 1 guy, and we're going to need number 2 guy to come in and lead us to a victory. And we're in position to do that as a football team, and that's huge for us. He's a wide open guy, old school, really tough, really fast, not as big as some of the other safeties in our league, but he packs a lot of punch, and he has a lot of fight about him. He didn't play perfect, obviously. He made a couple of mistakes. Eastern Kentucky was hard to defend in some ways because they gave you different formations and different groupings and did some things in the backfield that you had to really trust your eyes, if you will. And I think there were a couple of times that he may have got mixed up on who he had, as far as some of his assignments into the backfield from the safety position. But overall, I thought he played well today, made some hits, had a pick, 6. He's a good football player. He's fast and he hits hard, and he really cares about winning, so I certainly like him. Right. Well, very pleased with that. We've had a couple of days of football now, and I know the general consensus from most of the head coaches that played already prior to our game is that they were not near as far along as they thought they were. Excuse me. And, that's usually a game where you come out and make mistakes in the first game, and we made some mistakes, but we did a good job as far as the penalties go. Take the kicking game out of it, we only had a couple, and that's a significant improvement from this time last year or any point in time last year, and we played a lot of people. And we felt like coming in the game today that we would probably play at least 55 guys while the game was still on the line, and that's a lot of players. We traveled 70, and we dressed 96 today, but I took the roster and came up with what I thought would have been the travel roster if we were going to travel this weekend here, and then circled everybody that I thought would play in the game, and I circled 55 names. So we played a lot of guys. We took the red shirt off a lot of players today, and we played some guys that hadn't played in a while based on injuries, and I think to come out of the game with only a couple of penalties was huge for us. And then we didn't give any sacks up, I don't think. You have to check those stats. At one point in time in the fourth quarter, we had not given any sacks up, and Eastern Kentucky University has been a good pressure defensive football team. So I think we threw for 300 yards and no sacks. That's a good thing, and a rush for maybe 150 between 200 yards, and that's a good thing, and only had a couple of penalties outside of the kicking game. Special teams was a challenge. We have a lot of new specialists, and we'll have to work our way through that. They're all great talents, and they get excellent instruction. But Eastern Kentucky University is an outstanding special teams football team in regards to special teams. They do more probably than all the rest of our opponents the rest of the year put together will do. So there were a lot to prepare for, and obviously we were challenged some in that area. We got an extra point blocked. We got a punt blocked, and then we muffed the punt. We made some mistakes in special teams, and in some ways that might be good for us to bring some awareness to where we're actually at. It's going to have to improve if we're going to win week in and week out. And I thought that our performance would have been better today, but again, a lot of new specialists, and again, EKU presents a lot. But I expect special teams to be our edge. And we thought going into the ball game, our plan was, and we always have a plan, believe it or not, and sometimes the plan doesn't self-actualize, if you will. But our plan was to go in there today and snuff out all of their pressures, all their trick plays, and our special teams to make the difference in the ball game. And that necessarily wasn't the case, but that's our plan every week. So we're going to have to improve, and we will improve, and we'll be excellent at special teams again in time. Those guys have rotated so much in and out of the huddle, Marv and Turbush and Rob Henry, that when we announced to the team last night that Caleb wasn't going to play, I don't think it really shook anybody up. There have been a revolving door as far as quarterbacks go in and out of our huddle, and we had talked about that earlier in the preseason camp, that whoever's behind the center, whoever's calling the plays, our team is comfortable with that. But didn't get all the information I needed until later in the week, and we made a decision. It was an easy decision. We had 2 varsity players that broke team rules, and we're going to be a disciplined football team on and off the field. And so as a result, those guys were suspended for 1 game. It's a pretty simple thing. It was a lot more of an inconvenience than it was a catastrophe. I think he really competes, and winning means a lot to him. Obviously, he's a heck of a talent. He was accurate on most of his passes. They came out early, the Colonels did, and they did a couple things defensively that was new to us. We hadn't seen them do from a coverage standpoint, and they caught us in a coverage, and he threw a pick. And we didn't anticipate them rolling into that, and he threw it in the coverage and manufactured a takeaway, if you will. But I thought his performance was pretty good for the most part. Again, he has to be a more disciplined player and be more disciplined in the pocket. I thought for the most part we protected pretty good. He still has some work to do, but fortunate for us that he was ready to go and a good player. Well, we do a good job with that, and we're not necessarily a hyper-speed offense, if you will. You hear about Oregon and some teams like that try to see how many plays they can run throughout the course of the game. We consider ourselves a tempo offense, where we can change the tempo of the game at any point in time, whether we're going to huddle up or go into our no-huddle offense. It was important today against these guys because they were a team that frequently throughout the course of last year, they would stem their defensive front late in the cadence. And that could throw you off a little bit. So if you snap the ball in a hurry, they don't have time to stem. And they were also, in the past, have been a high-pressure defensive football team. And sometimes that can minimize the amount of pressure that you see. And then Robert's comfortable with it. And anytime you can create some fatigue, from the defense that's out there, that's provides some edge for your offensive front and for your total offensive football team. So a lot of good to come out of our no-huddle offense when we utilized it today. He's an outstanding prospect. I didn't see his blocking, but his blocking throughout the course of camp has been very good. He's big and strong and fast, and he will accelerate off the ball, and that's very important if you're going to be a physical blocker to use speed, in your team takeoff, your stance in your start. And he's very courageous, but he's an outstanding athlete, very tall, very long. He's got great hands. I thought today was a good day for Gabe and a big day for Gabe, but the sky's the limit for Gabe Holmes. He can be as good as there is. Well, he was today, and we'll look at the film and see where it goes from there. But we've got I think, a really special football team. They're very, very close, and everyone wants to start, but there's some real one-mindedness about them. They have great team camaraderie. I've mentioned it in the past that I think it stems from the quarterback position, where all 3 of those guys have had some injuries and some rough sledding, where there's been eligibility issues or knee surgeries, and they've always pulled for one another, and they've been exemplary for the rest of the football team. And our guys just want to win. Everyone wants to start, but lots of guys are playing. Joe was the starter today. If he played well, then a good chance he might be the starter again next week. But we're going to put the guys out here that play the best and practice the best. I think it was huge from a confidence standpoint, and we have a chance to be very good on defense if we continue to improve. And obviously, the competition is going is going to improve significantly here in about 6 days and throughout the course of the season. But, we had some great trial runs at it. There were several times today that there were sudden changes, and our defense rose to the occasion and held Eastern Kentucky University to scoreless in the second half. And I thought that was huge for our football team and a confidence builder for our defense. And it's probably going to happen a couple times down the road where there's going to be a sudden change and their back's going to be to the wall, and they've been there before. So hopefully we'll get the same result in the future enough times in order for us to win ball games.
Danny, a lot of interest locally in Danny after got in the game late.
Oh, he's a blast.
Runs and was on the special teams. First game didn't get a whole lot, but how do you think he's progressing?
He's doing fantastic, and I'm sure I'm glad we have him on our football team. He's very fast and tough. He's wiry, strong. He likes to play. He'd cut his arm off for his teammates and his coaches, and if he were to cut his arm off, he would bleed gold and black. He's very, very proud to be a Boilermaker, and he's a heck of a prospect and a winner. He certainly is a winner, so great things in store for Danny Anthrop. And, when he got out there, he made the most of it. He's a wide-open guy. He's fearless in a lot of ways throughout the course of the season. He'll make a difference, some on special teams, some as a receiver, some in the backfield, and some just with his want to and his work ethic, because he certainly leads by example. I'm really glad to have him on the team. Well, Posey, I'm not sure Posey got in today or not, but we played, he's not a true freshman, but Greg Latta. We took the red shirt off of him, and I think he's going to be a heck of a player down the road. And I could be mistaken a little bit, but I don't know if he played any football other than the one-year junior college football, then spring ball with us last year. He was an outstanding basketball player in high school, and then by the time his senior year rolled around, he looked in the mirror and he looked like a Big Ten defensive lineman. So he pursued football, and he's light years ahead of where he was in the spring. So we took the red shirt off of Greg Latta today. We took the red shirt off of both of the specialists today. We took the red shirt off of Anthony Brown today, I believe. I think he was out there some. We took the red shirt off of Danny Anthrop today. And then I thought it was huge today for Brandon Cottom to get out there and run and get tackled coming off of knee surgery. He's a special prospect for us. He's 252-pound running back that's very light on his feet, that we thought would have been a difference maker for us last year as a true freshman. And in this offense, we have a dire need for a big back. We're thin at the running back position, so him coming out today, having a big game, was huge for us. Both the specialists played today. I'm trying to think who else might have. We mentioned Anthony Brown. I think Ruben Ibarra played some there towards the end. And then I really like what I'm seeing from Ryan Watson. He got out there today and it didn't line up exactly right and didn't exactly play his gap exactly right, but I look at a lot of the reruns on the replays on the jumbotron, and he was running the ball and making plays, and he's going to be an outstanding player in the future. So a lot of good things today, a lot of good things for our football team. Obviously some sloppy play, but anytime you score that many points and hold them to 6 points and win, it's a good thing. We took him out in the end for precautionary reasons. He's been nicked up some throughout the course of camp, and he sucks it up and comes back in. He just has to get out every once in a while and kind of rub the pain out, and then he comes back in and plays well. He's very courageous and one of our better players. It's a lower extremity. You know exactly what it was, a lower extremity injury, obviously. Well, a little bit, because I love EKU, and it's a fantastic place, and I know a lot of the kids there, but the game today was about the Boilermakers. We paid those guys a lot of money to come here and play at our place, and we were going to take advantage of every rep that we could. That's why it was so important for Rob Henry to be out there in the end and manufacture a drive and score a touchdown and complete some passes. And I love the Colonels and always will, and we'll support them always, to the day I die. I'll be a great supporter of their program, but today that ball game was about the Boilermakers. Well, we're a much better football team than we were this time last year, and even though we made some mistakes, I still think we have great potential as a football team. We're much further along with our defensive front. You know, our secondary is veteran. We have more guys in the secondary that can play. I think our offensive line is much further along. This time last year, we had lost 2 starters. I'm counting Peters. Dry was injured and really struggling, and Kenny Pallou was off the roster. So we're further ahead at the quarterback spot. We're further ahead at the offensive line spot, receiver spot, tight end spot. We got to polish up special teams, obviously, but we're much further ahead as a football team than we were this time last year.